So in 2 words, who am I? I am a hacker at Inuit, where basically I work on automation and monitoring. And what you need to know about Inuit is that we are an open source company across Europe, and we help our customers dealing with all kind of challenges using open source technologies. So let's first start to talk a bit about security. Because we all know what security is, and we all know like what we need to do when we use passwords at work. Usually you will have one password for your big company email service, you will have the same for your maybe your desktop, and then you will have a local service, maybe just located to the country, which will provide you another password that will be a different one, and then you will have a customer infrastructure when you will have another password, and at the end you have 3 old wikis that no one wants to update anymore, but where you still have local users and local passwords. So passwords are difficult, and updating them or keeping track of all of them is often difficult too. And when you look at the classic login workflow in an infrastructure, what you will have is usually a form on your application with your username as password. Then you will send that password to the application, so it will know your password, and then it will go to the LDAP Active Directory or OpenLDAP or anything and see, hey, is that user using that password? Is that correct? So at the end, your application will get your username and your password, which is something which is not really nice because we have multiple applications. So the passwords they are in the Active Directory database, but sometimes they are just stored in plain text. Sometimes it's in a database, and you also have that in all kind of password manager because you cannot remember them. So basically, your password is everywhere, and it doesn't even count when it goes from the front end to the back end, for example. So, you know, lots of companies still think that between the front end and the back end, you can just live with HTTP and just send basic authentication. So yeah, your password is basically everywhere. So every application can know the password. And LDAP is binding your application to LDAP is not a solution for that. And when you look at the classic workflow scale, well, you just need to type your password everywhere, and all the application will know your password and go to the LDAP directory. And you also have the other application where we just store the password in the local user database. And because you are lazy, you will just put the same password everywhere. So basically, anyone knows your password now. Hopefully, you can fix that by adding a small remember me checkbox so that you will just get the cookies forever and you don't need to log in again. So that's how most of the IT department fix that sea of passwords. Just, yeah, you know, just put remember me so that you don't send your password, you just send the cookie all the time. So why do we still use password? That's a good question. Well, I guess the reason we still use password is very simple. Anyone knows, you type your username, you type your password, and also a lot of applications cannot deal with anything else than passwords. Apart from this reason, yeah, I don't really know why we use password. Especially since when you speak about password, nowadays you have PKI, so some companies provide you with a smart card. You have two-factor authentication, so that you need your phone, you need another item to do that. And then we are the last point, which is federation and single sign-on, which means that basically you don't send your password to the application, but you rely on another proof of identity. So next to all those passwords that we have, what do we have nowadays? Well, we have something called security requirements, which means that if someone gets access to an application, you should be able to know who, why, and when, basically. And when you have access to some resources, you should always get only like the minimum privilege for the application. So like if you want to get access to a database, you should only get read access if you don't need write access. All that kind of stuff of things are stuff that we see all the time nowadays. You should also be able to revoke the access of someone. So if someone is fired tomorrow, and you have a unique admin password for, I don't know, any application, then will you change all those passwords or just say, oh no, it will not do anything bad now that he has left the company? So revoking access is also something that's important to do and that is not scalable if you don't have a way to centralize all of that. And then two-factor authentication is also important because at the end your password will end up everywhere, and being able to prove that it's really you and that it's not someone else using your password is something that's really important too. So being able to know who you are and what you can do is really important. And that's what IAM means. So IAM means Identity and Access Management. So identity just means, hey, I am Julien Pivotto, and I am a sysadmin. Access will mean, yeah, is the part, I am a sysadmin, so I have the rights to do what the sysadmins do. And when you think about IAM, it's for people, for machines, and for applications. So the applications should also be able to authenticate themselves so that if an application tries to read the database, you should be able to check that it's really the application calling the database and not someone else over the internet. There are multiple ways to do this. So that is basically a very simplified view of AIM. And AIM, in this presentation, will use the protocol OpenID Connect, which basically it's a standard that is used by a lot of people. And the whole point about OpenID Connect is to use tokens, and that the token is provided by a third party, which you will own, well, which in our case will be like Keycloak. So basically, here is a flow using OpenID Connect. So instead of providing your username and your password to your application, which is on this side, you will say, I want to log in now. So you will go to an application, Keycloak, that will get your username and your password. But that application will be dedicated to just doing the identity and access management. What that application will do then, it will check your username and your password to the LDAP database and then send you back to the application with what is called an authorization code. The authorization code will enable the application at the bottom to go back to Keycloak and say, hey, who is that user that come to me with that authorization code? And then that application will get from the Keycloak a token that will say, hey, this is Julien Pivotto, and he is a sysadmin. So that I never provided my password to the first application, and the first application trusts the Keycloak server to know who I am, because I have the token from the application. That token is that authorization code is very short-lived, so if it gets stolen on the way, well, you will probably not be able to use it. So now the application knows who am I and what I can do, and because the token is signed, it also knows that this is the reality. And when you have that workflow at scale, so you have multiple applications, well, only the first time you need to type your username and your password, because the next time Keycloak will see that you are already logged in. So it will just redirect you directly to the application. So basically, you don't need to log in anymore, and you will just get new authorization codes so that the other applications can fetch another token too. So basically, that's what single sign-on is about. It's basically you sign in once to an application, and then you don't need to sign in again. And all of that is based on the OpenID Connect protocol, so on those signed tokens. And those signed tokens are really important because they tell exactly, they will secure all the process. So that's one of those tokens. So it's protocol named JSON Web Token, and this is basically an access token that Keycloak can provide you. It's split in 3 parts, so which I will explain. And basically, you have a website that where you can put your web tokens and just see them decrypted, which you should not do with your production tokens. Anyway, so So the first part of the token will be the header. Like it will say, okay, this is a JWT token, and the algorithm that is used is HS256. Easy. The second part will be the payload, like, hey, this is Julien Pivotto, this token was made for OSDC, and his name is @invis.eu, and then he's a speaker. And then you have the time where the token was issued and the time when it will expire. Usually the expiry time is quite short because you have two kinds of tokens. So I will come back just in a second. So this is the payload. This is a JSON file that just tells who I am and what can I do. This is called claims. So this is the claims of the token. And the last part is just the signature, so that an attacker cannot make a fake token instead of Keycloak. So the signature is signed with a public key, and the public key, well, the application already knows it, or it fetches it at the Keycloak via the well-known endpoints. So the web token. There are two kinds of tokens in OpenID Connect. You have an access token and a refresh token. All you need to know for now is just the access token will grant you access to the resources. It will usually be like 5 minutes long or 20 minutes. And then you have the refresh token, and the refresh token basically is used to be able to renew the access token. So it means that the refresh token, you must store it very carefully, because if you have it, you can always renew the access token. So the claims, as I told you before, they tell you who you are and what you can do. But what's important is, because it is signed by the Keycloak server, I don't need to register to the first application. So if my user is not knowing the application, it is nothing, because Keycloak tells me there is a user called Julien Pivotto, so I should probably create it, because I know it's true. I know it's Keycloak. So basically, you don't need to register on all the different applications. And it also means that all the application does not know all the users in advance. You can use OpenID Connect to log in with your GitHub account to a third-party application. And that third-party application will not get all the GitHub users. They will just get the ones who are actually signing in. So basically, the passwords that we send to applications are gone, except for the Keycloak server itself. So that Keycloak will never send your password to anyone else, except if you use a LDAP backend, but that's out of the scope. And the application never gets your password, so they cannot use your identity for anything else. Also, in the token, you have an audience, which is basically for who that token was made. So if I want to go to my application A and take a token that was made for my application B will normally just reject the token and say, hey, that token was not made for me. And because you have Keycloak, and Keycloak comes with auditing built in, you have auditing for anyone that logs into any application in your environment. So instead of looking, who connected to that very old wiki, where do I find this information? Is that in the Apache logs? Yes, and the other one is in some crappy logs, and the last one we don't know who logged in. With Keycloak, you see exactly, okay, that user was authorized to access that application at that time. And as a user, you can also say, okay, I want to revoke my tokens, I want to log out of everything, and then all your tokens will be just revoked. So it also enables you to tell, okay, we have single sign-on in place, we know where anyone logs in, so we don't need anything else for the moment. We have checked a lot of stuff in the security list. The well-known is also important. It is the URL that you can give to to your clients that will tell, okay, here is all the addresses to get the tokens, the certificates. So if I go to gitlab.com.well-known OpenID configuration, then you will see, okay, this is, if I want to connect a user against GitLab, then here is the URLs that I need to use. So this is when I need to send them to login. Here is where I can get the token. Here is when I can get the information about the user, and here is, for example, the keys. So with that URL, I know with which keys GitLab will sign the tokens. And I can just validate the signature. So this is built in the OpenID protocol under the .well-known. So basically, if you know well-known, it's probably because of Let's Encrypt, but it is also used for OpenID Connect. So Keycloak. There will be a few demos today. I hope they will work. We will see. It will be interesting. So Keycloak is from Red Hat. It's a Red Hat open source project. And basically, it supports not only OpenID Connect, but also like SAML 2.0. And basically what it is, it's a Java application. So if you don't like Java, well, and it's a Wildfly application server. So if you don't like JBoss, okay. The upside of it being a JBoss application server is that if you are into JBoss or Wildfly, you can really tune Keycloak like you want. You can easily put it in availability, in cluster, anything you want. If you don't really know what JBoss is or what Wildfly is, you don't need to know, because Keycloak comes with a single package and everything is into that. So no. Okay, so when you get Keycloak, you have a bunch of files. So 4,000 files, because it's Java and it's everything into that. And you have a bin directory with a standalone.sh that you can just launch to see Keycloak running. So let's just launch Keycloak now, because I start with a clean database. So this is a completely new Keycloak. So now I will open Keycloak, port 8080. And then I have a page that tells me, hey, welcome to Keycloak, and then I can create my administrator password. You can actually, like, I will put admin because I can. But basically, you can also do all of that with command line, and just it's easier to show you that now. So now, no. I can access the administration console because my admin user is created, so I need to log in. So this is the login form of Keycloak by default. So if I put admin, now I am logged in the Keycloak interface. Okay, so you see it's a big Wildfly. It's really easy to start and to set up. So what Keycloak can also do, and we won't show everything today, but because it supports OpenID Connect, you can have user connecting from GitHub or GitLab. It can do FIDO. So FIDO is like the small YubiKeys when you click on them and then you are logged in. Two-factor authentication with where you need your phone and to scan a QR code and then enter a one-time password. You can have custom logging workflows, so that if you want your user to do something special at the middle of the login procedure, you can do that, like adding an extra screen or asking for some questions. You can also ask for a consent of our terms and conditions so that you will access that service. Please validate that you agree with those rules. And then the user needs to consent, otherwise it cannot access the application. You can use it to log into OpenShift, which is something which is new. I have not tested that yet. I think it's released now. And then you can do the user management so that if you want an application when user can register, change their password, put a password policy, all of that can also be done by Keycloak. So Keycloak can do just from the minimum thing, like just do the login part, to everything, like managing all the users, and also synchronizing them to an Active Directory or a LDAP server. All of that is possible with Keycloak. So there are three things in Keycloak that I want to show you now, so that you will understand the rest of the talk. The first one is a realm. So a realm, basically, it is a set of users, a set of groups, a set of clients. So basically, in this case, I will create a realm example, and that is where I will log in for the moment. So basically, Keycloak comes with a master realm, and that master realm, you should not use it because it has all the rights on all the other realms. So anyone who can log into the master realm, so the default one, can do anything on the Keycloak. So I create an example realm. I can put a display name, HTML name, anything. And so now I have an example where my users can log in. So out realm example login, I guess. It's not login. Anyway, we will find that later on. Then you have the clients. So the clients are the list of the applications that can ask Keycloak for a login. So that I want to log into application A, then I need to have the token for application A. Well, application A needs to sign the login request, so that not anyone can actually log in with Keycloak. So that's what the client is. So it's an application basically that will ask you to authenticate. The last thing is the identity provider. So that the identity provider, it is basically a third-party application, a third-party OpenID Connect or SAML application that will just behave like an external identity provider. So if in our use case, it could be like GitLab, it could be sometimes the organization own single sign-on. So some organization have single sign-on, and sometimes you can just plug to that so that you can authenticate the user. So you have multiple choices as identity providers. And the last thing is the user federation, because like even if Keycloak has a local database with users, you often want to check them against LDAP that will contain the group. So LDAP is the user federation backend to Keycloak where you can store the users and retrieve them. The LDAP support in Keycloak can be just read-only, or it can be read-write, so that you can also update the users or just read the users. So that's what I've told you, so that you have multiple realms. The master realm, you should not touch it except adding the relevant users, because you should not use the default admin user that you have created. You should instead do something more clever, like connecting that to an external identity provider or some users. Then you have a realm, for example, you have a realm for the customers when you see that they can log in with 3 different third-party applications, and they can log in from with 2 applications. So basically, the customer's realm will be like, hey, you are a customer, you can log in with GitHub, Google, or I don't know what. And then you have the company realm, where you only trust the local users. So if I go, for example, to gitlab.com, then you actually see sign in. So you actually see at the bottom, so these are OpenID Connect providers that you can use to log in. So now we will secure an application with Keycloak. So I have picked up Grafana for this demo, so that now I will first start a Grafana instance. So Grafana is a dashboard application, and basically it supports Keycloak of OpenID Connect out of the box. So first, I will start it to show you that this is not okay. It is just protected by email, by an admin account, which is admin by default. So I can log in as admin if I want, but okay, that's not really relevant. So I signed out, and now I will enable login via my Keycloak. The first thing I will do first, I will create a user in my Keycloak. This one will be in the local database. So I will create like roi de la pluie. I put an email. I will put my first name, my last name. Okay, and then I save. And then I will directly like add a password to my user. So test and test. You see that I have a mark there that says if the password is temporary or not. So it means that the user would be able to reset the password itself when it will log in the first time. Keycloak has a lot of those small tooltips everywhere, so if you don't understand something, you actually look at that and understand what is behind that. So let's click the reset password button. Yes, I want to change the user password. What was it again? Anyway, so now I shut down my Grafana. I will look what I need to put in the configuration. Default. So OpenID Connect is actually on top of another specification, which is OAuth. So basically, I will not go into the details, but what works with OAuth will generally work with OpenID Connect. So I will enable it, and then I need a client ID and a client secret, because to get the information about the user, I need a secret, so that I need to generate an ID and a secret from my Grafana application. So I get back in my Keycloak, and I will just do clients. You see that there are a bunch of clients, because by default, Keycloak deploys an application so that you can see your profile, you can see your sessions. So I will just create a new client, which will be Grafana, OpenID Connect, and the root URL will be localhost port 3000 and just HTTP. Okay, so my client has been set. There is just one last thing, is I need to change the access type to confidential. I will not go into the details about that, but if you have the choice, always pick confidential, because public is when you want to have the token in the browser in JavaScript or that kind of things, which is not relevant there. So I save this, and now I can see my secret, and I put my secret there. So and my client ID is Grafana. So this is the first thing that I type, and then I need to provide the following URLs. So an authentication URL, and those URL basically I will find them in Grafana. So when I go to my RIM settings, I actually have the link to the well-known configuration that I've shown you, so that I can get the correct links. So this is one. The token URL. The API URL is not needed. I think that's all. So now, hopefully, when I will start my Grafana, I will be able to log in. Okay, so now I have a link, signing with Keycloak. What I will do now is just opening that in a private browsing tab. So localhost 3000, and then I can just sign in with Keycloak, and I am in Keycloak, and my user was Waddle-Appri, and then the password was test, and then because I changed the password with the admin, I now need to change my password, which I will put test2. You want me to reuse the same password? Yeah, of course. Okay. Yep. Let me check my configuration. Okay, that one, apparently I need to have it. So I will find it. So this must be the user info. Okay, so now I need to log in again because I lost my session, and now I can log in with Keycloak, and I am logged in. And you see that Keycloak has got my name, Julien Pivotto, and he has got my email too. So I'm now if I sign out, I'm actually not signed out of Keycloak yet. So let's fix that. So I will take the logout, and I will put that in my Grafana configuration. So I put the logout in my sign out redirect URL. I will add redirect URI at the end to get back to my Grafana. So that should do it now. So now I should have a Grafana server when I can actually sign out. And when I sign in with Keycloak, I need to enter my password again. So what happened there is that at the end of the workflow, I have told Grafana to redirect me to Keycloak to say, hey, that user wants to disconnect. So I am also disconnected from Keycloak. Okay, so we have connected our first application. I have another application that I want to connect. And it's an application that does not support OpenID Connect, which is still most of the application nowadays. So if I go to OSDC 2019, then I will yeah. But Prometheus is really stupid regarding security. Like, they just say that it's not their responsibility. So if I open the Prometheus console, then I just have full access, and that's it. So basically what I will do is I will deploy another application next to it. Which is called the Keycloak Gatekeeper, which is a single binary, which I don't remember the configuration, so I will take my backup. Where is it? Gatekeeper. So I will first need to set up a new client, of course. So I set up a new client in my Keycloak. What I do now is there is a bug in Keycloak, so I need to do something. Bug Keycloak, I will call it bug. And I basically need, it is yes, safe. And here I want to create Yeah, I first need to create the client. So I will create a client, which I will name Prometheus, and then client protocol OpenID Connect, which will be at 127.0.0.1.1991, or I will put localhost. Actually, it is important to put localhost and 127.0.0.1. Well, it's important which one you choose because the user will only be redirected to a whitelist of URL. So if I put this, then only localhost will be able to request tokens for that client. So the user will get an error if I try to use the token for someone else. So I have Prometheus, I put it in confidential like the other one. I save to get the password. And I will do my magic there, which is to change the audience, which is something they will hopefully fix. So if I look at audience and the audience of Prometheus that I save, okay, like this. So now I go back to my Prometheus client and I just do like client scopes, bug, add. Okay. So I need my secret now to configure it inside my Gatekeeper. Okay, so this is the Keycloak Gatekeeper configuration. What we have there is at the bottom we say we want all the resources to be protected. It could just be the API, or the API could require admin access, or to be a sysadmin, where the other ones would just require standard URL, well, standard rights. So in this case, I just want to protect everything. And basically, I have an encryption key, which is for internal use, and I have some other settings like secure cookies because I'm using HTTP, and upstream URL is basically the address of my Prometheus server. So what I will actually need to use is localhost 1991, and that's what I need to expose to my users. So now, hopefully I can start it. And now I open a private tab and localhost 92099. What did I pick? Yeah, 9091. And now I am redirected to my Keycloak when I can say roi de la pluie and test. And I am logged in on my Prometheus server. And now, if I open my Grafana again, I will be logged in on Grafana. 300. So if I click sign in with Keycloak, I am logged in. Now, so there is an option in Grafana so that you don't, first, two options interesting. The first one is that you can disable the login form there, so you cannot log in with the local users in Grafana. And the second option is to automatically redirect you to the Keycloak so that you don't see that page and you are directly redirected to Keycloak. So now I need to log in again, but probably that my token is still valid there. Yeah, so I'm still logged in the Prometheus until my token will expire. So that was the first demo. So we have seen how I secure an app natively like Grafana just by setting the correct URLs. Because it is O2 and not OpenID Connect, I need to put all the URLs. If it was OpenID Connect, just the well-known would be enough. And then you have Keycloak Gatekeeper for application that just know HTTP. So you can also log into external identity providers. So let's try a demo to log in with GitLab. So I will log into my gitlab.com. I use GitLab because it's mostly open source and they do cool stuff. So I will sign in. Actually signing with GitHub, okay. because so that I can show you OpenID Connect. And in my profile, I can actually like, it's my settings. I can just say applications. So I need a bigger screen. Okay, applications. And then I can add a new application. So I will call it Keycloak, OSDC. And I need to put the redirect URI. So what should be the redirect URI for Keycloak? Yeah, localhost. Yeah, I don't know what is the full. I hope this will work. So I want like OpenID profile and email, which is the standard for OpenID Connect. So you see it is just written there. I knew it, of course, but it's also written there. So I can now save the application. And now I have an application ID and a secret. So now, hopefully, I can go to my Keycloak server and go to identity providers. Maybe I will try, no, the other one. I will add a OpenID Connect provider, and basically what I will need is the authorization URL, the token URL. I think I can just like say, no, I can say gitlab.com well-known OpenID configuration. So if I say that in my Keycloak, it will just fill in all the fields. If I find the correct tab, okay, and I click import. Okay, so now I have all the URLs that are there. I just need my client ID, my client secret, my client ID, my client secret, and save. Okay. So now I am in the example realm. So now if I start again my login, localhost 3000, I log in with Keycloak, and now it has changed. So I can log in with OIDC, which basically should have been renamed like, I just put a very bad name. So let's call it GitLab. I save, localhost 3000, signing with Keycloak, and then I have the choice to log in with GitLab instead of login with my user and password. I click, okay, I sign in with GitHub. I will not be able to sign in with GitHub there. Maybe that's what will work. Anyway, so this should work, except that I don't have my two-factor authentication there, except that, oh, if I go out of the private tab, I will be able to log in there because I'm logged into GitLab, so that should work. Okay, I need to restart, log me in. This is interesting. It must break, right? Login with Keycloak, GitLab. Okay. So now the URL that I provided is just not working, and basically I will just try to. Maybe I can find it quickly, otherwise I will just skip. What do you think? That I will find it? RIM settings. Yeah, I need to change it on GitLab, but I don't know what I need to put. Actually, I can just find that there. So blah 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 blah. Okay, so OTRIMS example broker OIDC endpoint. Okay, so I go to my applications. and I can change that. So root realms example broker OSDC endpoint. Okay. So now I can log into my Grafana using GitLab. Almost. Okay. Yeah, I know why. Now I know why. Yeah. I will put both. And this time, okay. So now GitLab is asking me, hey, should Keycloak be able to use your account? And he's telling me, here is what Keycloak will do. It will basically authenticate yourself. You can actually ask for more, so you can ask to have the permission to read the repositories, that kind of stuff. In this case, just want to log in. I authorize the application, and I need now to register in Keycloak. Okay, first name, roi de la pluie, last name, also submit. Okay, so now I am logged in Keycloak, but with my information, with my user from GitLab. So now if I sign out, I need to log in again, and I can again do it. Except that in this case, I am not logged in, logged out of Keycloak, of GitLab, which is something that you can also configure. Okay, so of course, what you can do also is, I will not demo it, but you can also connect to GitLab, to Keycloak with another Keycloak realm. So you have a Keycloak realm for the internal user and for the clients. On the client's realm, you could say, okay, also the internal user can connect. So operations. So basically, to configure Keycloak, you can use the API. The API is built in into a shell script that will do the curl for you. So if I just do, for example, let's find my Keycloak again. In KCADM, I need to log in first. My password is admin. Okay, and then I can do like KCADM get anything. So there I get the users of the realm password. So basically, KCADM is a shell script that can use the API. It's quite easy to use. You also have a Terraform provider that is in the works. So that's how we configure Keycloak basically. Most of the realms and the configuration is in the database, so you have not other choice than using that. So by default, it's a file database, so don't use that. Put that on a real database, please. And also, auditing is not enabled by default. So if I go back to my realm, I can actually I have my events there. I need to configure that and say, okay, I want the events, and you can choose which one you want. And I also want the admin events, and I save, and now I will have all the events that will appear in Keycloak. So it's strange that auditing is not enabled by default, but yeah, it's like that. So now if I log in, I will actually see that I logged in. And what we also do is that we log to file. So if you are afraid of GBoss, I will not solve that today. So basically, what we do is that we put all the logs to a file, and then we actually parse that file for the monitoring purpose, for example. But it also enables us to see, okay, if someone gets into the database and changes the audits, then we can still check the file. So you need to tamper the both sources, which is more difficult than just one source. So that's why we have both auditing in place. Monitoring Keycloak. So what we are interested in when we monitor Keycloak is first the JVM, which has not been a problem for now, like the garbage collection, everything. All the problems you can have with a JVM, you can have it with Keycloak. And MTail is what we use to look at the logs. So I have MTail configuration. So I only have 10 minutes left, so I will not be able to show you a lot. But basically, we take the logs that we write, and with mtail, we can actually tail that log and make metrics out of that. That can then be shown to a graph, and that helps us to see, okay, is someone logging in now? Do they succeed? Because we use external identity providers. And you know, when you have a user that cannot log in, it does not matter if it is your database that is down or your identity provider. So mtail and audit logs enable us to see if the business of the Keycloak is actually working. So we can go further now and use Keycloak to get access to a database, because Vault from HashiCorp can basically provide you OpenID Connect integration. So I will try to show you that. So Vault can create tokens for you to access to anything like a database, generic passwords, or cloud instances, SSH access also. So basically, you log into Vault and then you say, hey, I want to get access to that machine, and you get a SSH key that is valid for 5 minutes. So, oh yeah, for what I do, it's fine. So I will cheat a bit. So first I will create a Vault client. Create Vault. And that client, I will put it in confidential and save. No, I need at least one redirectory. Localhost. Okay, like this. And a second one, which will be used for command line login. Okay, so now I have credentials. I can copy this and then so if you have, you can ignore the Terraform part. I use Terraform to configure Vault, but it's not really relevant there. So I have my client secret. Okay, and so what I am creating there in 2 words is I will put a one-time password in a Vault that will change every second, and I will be able to retrieve that using my OpenID Connect token. So this is the Vault token. And the Vault is there. So this is a Vault just for development, so the token is in the output. Okay. So I have my Vault now, and basically, if I go there now, I should be able to log in. I need to put localhost. Okay. So now I can log into Vault just by clicking that button, and then I will be authenticated to Vault using my OpenID token. So I am signed in. So now I am inside Vault, and I connected with Keycloak. And because I was already connected to GitLab and all that stuff, I am already logged in. Now something more interesting is what I can do with that. So first, let me log in locally to my Vault, but using the command line this time. So Vault login, and now what is going on? It is probably blah 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 blah. It should print the redirectory in the bottom. Oh yeah, that thing again. Okay, so let's go again in my Keycloak configuration. What time is it? Yeah, okay. So, settings. Yeah, up. I just saved this. And now, so now I can log in, like user, no, what apply test. Okay, now I'm logged in. I can close my browser because behind the scene I'm logged in, and I can now do vault, get, vault, read, and now I have my one-time password code, so I have access to a resource thanks to my OpenID Connect login. It means that even for stuff that are more complicated, like database access, that kind of thing, you can actually do that with Vault, thanks to OpenID Connect. So basically, that is all the things that you can connect to Vault. So it is a lot of cloud resources, but also like you can generate certificates, generate SSH keys, connect to databases, all that kind of things can be easily connected with OpenID Connect now. Okay, some extra notes. Your application, the application that is connected to OpenID Connect, is responsible to validate the token and also to do the authorization. So you ask for a scope, so you will know that I am a sysadmin, but then the application needs to know, hey, as a sysadmin, Julien can write to that file, or Julien can do this or this. So the authorization is the application that needs to check what is inside the token that it will get. Keycloak is business critical, which means that you cannot just install Keycloak and say, hey, I am done. No, you need to think about automation, DRP backups, because the day you arrive at work and people say, hey, no one can log in today, and you like, to which application? And they say, like, any of them, it's not funny. The master realm, just don't use it. Well, use it to configure the other realms, but don't use it for third-party applications. And here is a list of open source clients. So I have shown you Vault, Grafana. You can also do that with Keycloak. And if you don't like the Gatekeeper from Keycloak, you can also do that at Apache with mod out OpenID Connect. OpenDistro for Elasticsearch, the last stuff from Amazon, also supports OpenID Connect. Interestingly enough, some in Belgium and in France, the governments are putting in place OpenID providers too, so you can log in as a citizen to different websites using OpenID Connect. So that's interesting to know too, that it's not only like the big GitLab and GitHub and all those ones that use OpenID Connect, but also now governments are starting to use that. GitLab can do OpenID Connect. You have also Dex, which is an identity provider also, which can also do that. So those are the alternatives to Keycloak if you want it. And at the end, single sign-on. So it makes everyone's life easier. So if you just need to log in once in the morning, it's very easy. It becomes very easy to work. And you can work with multiple microservices. And you don't need to type your password 10 times. So that's very cool. OpenID Connect, its widespread, is growing. Lots of people implement that, so, and there is no reason why you should not start thinking about that. And also, I do recommend Keycloak because, like, you have a lot of features built in directly, and you don't need to look around. It supports a lot of different use cases, which I have only shown you like 5% there. So, okay, thank you. Now you have exactly 60 seconds for the questions.
So thanks very much, Julien. Are there any questions? I don't know who was first. Okay.
Just quickly, what about Kerberos? Where does Kerberos play into this? Where does Kerberos play into this world? And there's some similarities, it seems, but maybe it's not fashionable. I don't know. I used to like it.
Kerberos is not part of this. You can use Kerberos as an external identity provider, but that's all, and I don't know anything about Kerberos, so I won't lie, but I have never seen Kerberos used anywhere, so so it's not used in OpenID Connect. Yes, another question?
When you use some external identity provider, which definitely will not have the claims that my application will need, let's say, so can I have something like, okay, the identification is done by an external IDP, but the claims will come out of Keycloak?
Yes. So Keycloak will anyway add the claims of the last realm, but you can also say that the claim from another realm are reused, or you can add a claim. Like if you have a customer realm and you can log in with externally with your organization internal OpenID Connect provider. Then you can say, hey, if that comes from that provider, I automatically add a claim. Or I use that claim which has a different name, so you can play with the claims of the identity providers. So. No, so if I look there, you have mappers, and you can basically create a mapper, which is you can hardcode a claim, so that when I log in to Keycloak, I automatically have a role, or you can just do some mapping, or say, hey, the username is that field, so you can do mappers to the identity providers.
Okay, does that answer the question? We don't. Yeah. Okay. One short one.
Looking at applications that do not support, instead of the extra application that you run, the Gatekeeper, does this also work with Nginx, Lua, OpenID Connect configuration? Do you know, is it tested or?
I don't have experience with Nginx. I know that for Apache there is a module, and basically the Gatekeeper will work for any application. You just need to be careful that if you put that next to the front end, then it means that your application in the backend is still not secured. So I prefer the Gatekeeper because it will be close to the application, and I don't need to do the login at the front end level. I can directly do it at the application itself, so that it will also be secured from the internal network point of view. But there is probably plugins for Nginx. I don't know about that. So.
And also, a bit complementary to the Kerberos question, for PAM, so for SSH or whatever other authentication mechanisms that can be used natively on a Linux or other Unix, do you have any solution?
No, I don't know about that specifically. I guess it would be possible. I've shown you that you can log in with a command line tool, so maybe there is a PAM module, I don't know. Yeah, there is PAM script, yeah, of course.
Okay. So I'm sorry, we have to cut it here because time is over. Thanks, Julien Pivotto, for the insights. Thank you very much.